Time now for our rants and raves, starting with Dan.
I have a rant for the death of Boston's Metro, the free commuter tabloid that had been around for many years. It is gone out of business and it's not coming back. Apparently, the Metros in Philadelphia and New York were sold, and the Boston people said, you know what, we can't sustain it without the help from the other Metro.
I haven't seen it in a long time. It used to be everywhere, and it just disappeared.
I would see it at North Station, and what I saw this week was an empty Metro rack at North Station. It's too bad.
Yeah,
everybody's looking at their phones on the T. We know that, but it still was a nice thing, and we can't have nice things.
All right, Callie.
I am giving a rave to. So the story is about Charlie Rose and a deposition that became public about him. We'll recall that when he was exited out of CBS, there was a lot of protests from him about, oh, you don't know the real story, we don't know what's happening, blah, blah, blah. Well, there are three women who went forward even after the CBS investigation to accuse him of non-consensual groping and verbal sexual harassment. And because they did, they forced him to say all the stuff that he actually did. He had a nickname that I cannot say on the air.
Say it.
No, I can't say it. It's so obscene. But what is interesting in this piece is that he was asked if Gayle King used to call him by the nickname, and he said yes, which would seem to indicate that a lot of people knew of his behavior. Except that I am remembering, if you recall, when they asked him to step down, both she and Nora were sitting together in a kind of shocked,
like they were shocked.
Manner about
Nobody
it.
could have been shocked.
But I'm just saying.
I mean, the details in that thing are stunning because it's
gross.
Tons and tons of women. At the same time, he's got that girlfriend, Amanda Burden, and it's
now he
just
did say he's
revolting.
embarrassed by it, but you know, hey, he did it.
Yeah,
you know,
don't do the crime.
Yeah.
All right, Sue.
All right, so I have a rant. As you may know, there's some news coming out of Great Britain that the royals, part of the royals, are going to be stepping back from their welfare, public housing, and food supply freedom that they got. But my caution is that Meghan Markle, who has been the subject of such racist, terrible things and comments in the tabloid press, and our very own New York Times has fallen in to the trap of already comparing her to Yoko Ono.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And in a news story about this, which is a valid and important news story, the writer says that the Duchess of Sussex should not have inserted herself Yoko Ono-like into the once close relationship between Prince Harry and Prince William. And it's just shocking to me because it opens up with a paragraph of, like some people say and some Brits are saying, but falls right into this sexist, racist trope, which I hope that we can at least try as, the real press
It's interesting because at the same time there's been a lot of really interesting sidebars written about this. I knew nothing about the royal finances, and I find it fascinating. Even this whole thing, if they give up their, if they try to go financially independent, they have to give up what, Frog's Castle? Is that
Frogmore?
Frogmore, sorry.
Yeah, Frogmore Cottage at Windsor.
Yeah. And just how they get their money, and the Charles is the pocketbook. So there has been some good reporting, but I agree. Let's
just stick to the facts and let the tabloids, unfortunately, do what they're going to do.
Yeah, exactly.
That's my first rant.
All right, you'll be back for more. All right, Dan.
Well, I have a rave for Stephen King and Don Winslow. The two authors are offering up $200,000 and that they'll donate to a charity if the White House press secretary will hold a briefing. And we've had a lot of discussions about the lack of briefings. I think it's been more than 300 days now, and they've spoken out on social media talking about how we need to be able to hear what this administration is doing. They need to be questioned about that. And so putting this out there, putting money on the line in order to force it, the reaction from the White House, from Stephanie Grisham, she apparently said this is noble that they're looking to donate some money. They should donate it directly to a cause and not have any strings attached. So there's a little bit of back and forth going on with this, but a rave for the two authors.
But I mean, one of the things we finally determined when they stopped doing those press briefings was, well, again, you used to go to them all the time. There was a time when you got some information. People actually answered questions, but that didn't happen.
Yeah, but sometimes you can get a lot of answers even if questions aren't being answered, right? So just by the fact that 10 people asked a question and then they stonewalled you at the press briefing, that tells you a lot, right? It's that they don't want to talk about something. Or you just might get a nugget that day because they get tripped up and say the wrong thing. You won't know any of that if you're not having briefings, and so that's why I think it's important to have them.
Right.
We've really swung a long way from Obama having, people being accused of being potted plants, reporters, and bribe Obama to this now.
Well, we used to complain about, it's been 10 days that we haven't heard from you. It's like, wow.
All right, well, finally tonight, I have a rant, too, and it's for Murdoch-controlled television in Australia, which is creating its own narrative about what's going on with the horrible wildfires there. They're basically saying that it's arson-driven. They're downplaying the importance of climate change, and they've got even some of the firefighters. One guy said, "Don't let the greenies see you chopping the trees down," suggesting that environmentalists would be more upset that they're taking good trees down in order to protect houses and lives and everything, which is just patently absurd. So, shame on them. They're denying it, but it's clearly a message, and it's coming from not only Murdoch's organizations, but a couple of the other conservative news outlets there too.